to an extent, become a matter of weeks. The range of threats on the media in Manipur is simply hard to believe. Let me just give you some examples. Unidentified militants, with conviction, with authority, I'm saying militants, blowing up newspaper offices, asking editors to publish press releases verbatim, or asking to spike a statement from a rival rebel group. Unlike in Kashmir or other parts where there is conflict, there is a bitter, tough war, territorial fight for territorial supremacy between various ethnic militant groups, and that really compounds the situation in the Northeast, because it's not just the state that you are, as a journalist, have to tackle. You have to tackle a number of militant groups who have got their bitter rivalry. They are fighting among themselves. So if you write about one militant group, the other militant group will threat you. It's not just the state versus the state and the non-state actors. There are, even among the non-state actors, there are divisions. So I'm sure I'm being able to explain about what I'm saying. Then the Armed Forces Special Powers Act in Manipur is surely violating civil and human rights, besides the freedom of the press, because most of the editors, like, maybe I run from court to court almost thrice a week, facing charges, cases. So this, and it drains out your whatever, and you will not be able to concentrate. So what happens is that you, at some point in time, you tend to compromise. That why take, like, pangas, as we call in Hindi, with this people, just play it safe, play it cool. The state atrocities on the media, like, definitely is going heavily against the media in the Northeast. There were editors and journalists arrested on flimsy grounds, while even Snehasis would remember, even Doordarshan, which is a national broadcaster, their journalists were arrested in Assam on conflict charges, that, like, for saying that their reports went against the interest of the state. So this is a very serious thing. Normally, national broadcasters like All India Radio and Doordarshan, they are government. They should not be targeted. But then there were instances in Assam. So journalists get hit from either side. If you don't toe the militant line, you face the wrath and ire of the rebels, and if the media accepts the militant diktats, you're bound to be harassed by security forces or establishment. A friend of mine here in the summit was telling me on the sidelines that, like, why are you so soft on the state? But facts are facts. You cannot belie facts, because the number of journalists that have been killed in the Northeast, majority of them, and again I say with a lot of conviction, majority of them were killed by militants for not towing their line. And majority in Manipur, you ask anybody, you go to the ground, you ask any journalist, I think maybe, like, the percentage would be 50-50. If you ask them, whom do you fear the most, militants or the state? I think, like, they would say 50-50, because that is the amount. So let us call a spade a spade. That is a bitter, stark reality, that journalists in the Northeast face the wrath and ire from both sides equally, and separatists, the non-state actors, are no less in this whatever subject that we're discussing. But the sad part is wider insurgencies. Northeast has always been regarded as a buffer against foreign aggression by New Delhi, China being the main threat. Therefore, the only concern of New Delhi is to militarize the region so that it gives a cushion against any foreign aggression. And the general perception that who bothers about the Northeast, the tragedy is that for New Delhi, India ends in Kolkata. There is nothing beyond Kolkata. That is the general perception. Many of my Indian friends would know he was a chief minister, former chief minister of Mizoram. His name was Zoram Thanga. He was a former rebel leader belonging to one of the longest running insurgencies, the Mizo National Front. There was an accord in 1987, if I'm not wrong, 86, and then they formed the political party by the same name, and then later on Zoram Thanga became the chief minister. Couple of years back, he's no longer the chief minister now because his party is out of power. A couple of years back, while he was the chief minister, I was interviewing him and asking him that, about just trying to know how does it feel to be back to mainstream. Then he said, the tragedy is, he's got a very typical sort of an accent, very interesting accent. He said the biggest tragedy is that New Delhi listens to the voice of bullets only, and nowadays he says even bullets' voices are not heard. You need big explosions to make New Delhi wake up. So that really sums up the mood or perception of the Northeast. I think that sense of alienation is breeding insurgency. That's why you have just a large number of insurgent groups operating out of the region. Even today, people in New Delhi refers to most of the northeastern people as Chinkies because they have got small eyes. They have belonged to the Mongoloid stock, most of them. And same as in Myanmar and Bhutan, we belong, that area belongs to the Mongoloid stock. So still refers to as Chinkies, which people in the Northeast finds it very derogatory. But the point is, just blaming the government will not really help. The media is equally responsible. By media, I mean the mainstream media. Yesterday in the documentary that was shown, we saw a small clip of Irom Shamila of Manipur, who has been on a fast unto death for 11 years now. She has stepped into his 11 years. She's on a nasal drip. She's being force-fed. She's in jail. And the genesis of her, why she took up fasting, that she saw 10 people being shot dead by police in front of her home 11 years down the line. And then from that moment onwards, she was so aghast by the way the police just got their hair and shot them from point blank, that she said that this Armed Forces Special Powers Act need to be repealed at any cost, and human rights should be restored in Manipur. But then the tragedy is she was born in Manipur and not in Delhi. Maybe by now, if she was born in Delhi, she would have crossed the popularity chart by miles in terms of Anna Hazare. Same with the case. An indefinite economic blockade is going on in Manipur, and probably it has crossed 110 days now. The two lifelines, the two highways blocked, and supplies of medicines, petroleum products, essentials have been, there has been an acute shortage and people are suffering. Gas cylinder is costing about 2,000 rupees, which you get it around 450 rupees. A liter of petrol, 70 rupees, which is selling at 200, and even if you're willing to pay, you don't get it. They have rationed it. So you might get only about a liter or two of petrol. But then not much of these things appears in the mainstream media. I wonder if the same thing, I was talking to somebody the day before, that if the same thing would have happened on the Pune-Bombay highway, could you have imagined, would the central government, would New Delhi allow it to continue for 110 days? It's as simple, we are all human beings. Newspaper editors, I'm just talking about the mainstream newspaper editors, they often tend to ignore reportage from the Northeast. Simple reason being waste space. Who bothers? This is the kind of attitude. But then things are beginning to change insofar as television is concerned in the last couple of years. Let me tell you why. My channel Newsline, we started in 2007. And in 2008 end probably, or maybe 2009 early, this so-called people's meter, the television advertisement measurement that we have in India, those machines were placed in Guwahati. So obviously the national channels, the mainstream channels, they knew that there was this viewership share in the Northeast. If they ignore coverage of the Northeast, people in that area will not watch them, and that way their revenue will get affected. So what they did, they started stepping up their coverage from the Northeast. And today, most of the channels, most of the television channels have a full-fledged bureau, maybe a couple of reporters. They have got their DSNG vans. And if anybody who have been watching television of late, you must have seen, even Bhupen Hazarika's death was widely covered. But I had that I had this apprehension. Had it not been for this viewership thing, this TRP thing, which I really personally don't like this thing, but can't help it, maybe they would have simply given a scroll saying that Assamese singer Bhupen Hazarika passed away. But coming back to the newspapers, the broadsheets, the mainstreams, it's a tragedy. Times of India, Telegraph have got Assam editions. But what happens? People don't understand, those who really don't know the dynamics of media. They think, the people in the Northeast think that, oh, the Times of India and the Telegraph is being published from my state. But the point is, the news that comes out in the front page or the city pages, they are only being read by people in the Northeast only, because those news never get onto print in the metro editions. So what matters, what we are striving at, what we are advocating is that in the metro editions we need coverage from the Northeast so that people really knows what is happening, what are the grievances, why these insurgencies, what is happening. So just to give a peace of mind of the people in the Northeast, we want that. And I have been speaking at various seminars across India on this particular subject, why Northeast has been put off the media radar. The same question, this neglect is evident. In February this year, I was among 19 Indian television editors invited by the Prime Minister for a televised live press conference in New Delhi. After the customary introduction, I told him that thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, for inviting me at least and not ignoring the Northeast. For your information, the Prime Minister represents Assam in the Rajya Sabha. So, but the pun
is basically propaganda by both sides. There was a significant development in the media that a Maoist guerrilla, underground leader, he will ran up any journalist and will give live interviews in television. And he will talk for hours on the phone. And he will say all the anti-state things, the way how they want to overthrow the Indian state militarily and everything. And all the media, they will run it repeatedly. So why? The Maoists are getting publicity. Their ideology, which the government says is anti-national, is getting publicity. But media can't profit, because nowadays media is mostly business, and they will show what sells. And I think conflict and war are one of the things which sells most. So even if they are opposed to, the media is opposed to such kind of ruling, conduction of such kangaroo courts, where they will give you instant justice, they will just show the footage. They will just let the Maoists talk, because people will listen, because it's a guerrilla leader, it's a underground leader. There is excitement, and there is a sense of getting something that is secret. So during that time, I interviewed two persons. One was the DGP of West Bengal, Mr. Gobinder Singh, who is a The other person was a Politburo member of the CPI Maoist, Koteshwar Rao Kishinji, which is recently died. And I had the same set of questions for both of them. Why are you interacting with the media so much? Why have you all of a sudden become so proactive to feed the media? And the reply was same from the both sides. The Maoist Politburo member said, we have to use the media as a tool to reach out to the people. And the DGP said the same, we have to use the media as a tool to reach out to the people. So what finally we end up in giving publicity to them both. And what finally ends up in propagating the cause of conflict more and more. I would like to just refer to my friends were just saying, especially Tim was saying that now probably it's time when we should concentrate on peace journalism and not war journalism. The more we pay attention to their propaganda materials, I think the more the message of conflict will spread. And media can really play the role of a mediator here, because these two sides, they won't sit. Any conflict side, in India, if you see the Maoists and the government, they won't sit. And the Maoists don't think there is a need to talk. They agree to talk only when there is pressure from the civil society and the others. And the government, it seems they are neither interested in talks. Both says, okay, we have our powers, we will see it. But, and when there is a war, there is a conflict, we always find that the media tries to sensationalize it. It's an old fact. I will give one example of something. When the Lalgarh police station was locked and key by the locals for at least 9 months, and the entire area, there were 13 police outposts were closed. There was an area of at least 6 police stations where there were no police there for a time of at least 9 months. Then in June 2009, the Central Paramilitary Forces came in to reclaim the land from the Maoists. On the first day of operation, actually nothing happened. The troops came in, they started from West Midnapur, and they had to patrol a stretch of about 30 kilometers to the Lalgarh police station. They were just cautious because there could be landmine anywhere. So they were just moving slowly. Suddenly, a television journalist who were just following this troop jumped on the left side. There was field. And then he just started crawling, and found that his cameraman is focusing on the reporter who is crawling on the field. There was nothing happening on the road. The troops were just peacefully moving. And then we asked, what are you doing? What's the trouble? And he said, now my office says bring in some excitement. The audience needs some excitement. So this is what happens. And the way just both sides continue to use us, I will give another example. It was during the same time the gun battles were going on. And suddenly the police spread a news that guerrilla leader, who is basically a student of Jadavpur University, he was that time city committee secretary of Kolkata City Committee Secretary in Maoism. That he